Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I never said goodbye. No fight, no shouting, no final dramatic scene. I just walked out, and that silence said everything. I met Victoria at a leadership summit about 5 years ago. I was a guest speaker on a panel about corporate restructuring. She was in PR, working for one of the firms hosting the event. We crossed paths at a cocktail mixer the night before the conference. Victoria wasn't loud or flashy. She was calculated. Every word had intention. She listened closely, made eye contact that held longer than normal. I remember thinking, she knows what she's doing. A week later, we were texting. We had this smooth rhythm, no games, just understanding. She seemed independent, confident, and steady. That's rare. We got married 2 years later, small wedding, just close friends and a few family members. My mother said, "She's got ambition. She'll match your pace." I believe that. I work in corporate management consulting. My job isn't 9 to 5. I fly city to city, Atlanta, Dallas, Toronto, sometimes 2 weeks at a time. I always checked in, made time, never once missed an anniversary or her birthday. I thought that mattered. She never complained. Not in the beginning. In fact, she bragged to her friends that I gave her space and still treated her like a queen when I was home. I made sure she was taken care of. For the first 3 years, I thought I had the kind of marriage that people envy: trust, freedom, and passion. But looking back now, I realize it was only working because I wasn't around to see what was actually happening. It started small. You don't notice a house shifting until the cracks show up in the walls. After I got promoted to regional director, my travel schedule got heavier. More clients, more strategy meetings, more nights in hotels. Victoria didn't complain, but she changed. She started responding to my texts later than usual. Calls felt shorter, rushed. She'd say things like, "Can I call you back in 5?" But never did. When I'd FaceTime her from a hotel, sometimes she wouldn't answer at all. Other times, the camera would stay angled at the ceiling while she said she was folding laundry. I convinced myself she was just tired or bored. That happens. But one moment stuck in my head like a splinter. I was home for a weekend. We were in the living room, and she was scrolling through her phone. She laughed, this quick, sharp laugh, like a reaction she couldn't hold in. I looked up and asked, "What's funny?" She tilted her phone away and said, "Oh, just a dumb meme someone sent." It felt off. The way she locked the screen so quickly, before even looking up, felt like a reflex, not a reaction. The next week, I was flying out to Houston for a 3-day consult. At the airport, my assistant Monica called to confirm my itinerary. Before she hung up, she said, "Hey, random thing. I thought I saw Victoria yesterday downtown. She was walking near 6th and Jefferson with some guy. Tall, bald, black hoodie. Looked kinda cozy." I paused. "Are you sure it was her?" "Pretty sure," she said. "Didn't think much of it until now. Could have been nothing." Victoria hated downtown traffic. She never went that direction unless she had a reason. Still, I didn't accuse her. I didn't even mention it. I just filed it away. I believe in patterns. Patterns don't lie. And something about her had shifted. I just didn't know yet how deep the shift went. I came home from Houston a day earlier than planned. Didn't tell Victoria. No grand reason. I'd wrapped things up faster than expected, and I wanted a night in my own bed. That was it. When I walked in around 6 p.m., the place was quiet. The lights were on in the kitchen. I called out, "Victoria?" She came out of the bedroom a second later, hair pulled up, wearing one of those oversized shirts she usually slept in. Her eyes flicked over me, wide for just a moment. Then she smiled. "You're early." "Got lucky with flights," I said, watching her carefully. "Thought I'd surprise you." She walked over and kissed my cheek. Her breath smelled like mint. The kitchen smelled like her perfume. There was a half-empty wine bottle on the counter and one glass in the sink. "Have a good day?" I asked casually. "Just laundry, emails, nothing exciting," she said. I nodded, pretending not to notice the way her voice tightened. That night, after she fell asleep, I stayed up in the guest room. Couldn't shake the feeling that something didn't add up. So I opened her iPad. I don't snoop. At least, I didn't used to. But something had shifted, and my gut wouldn't shut up. The iPad was synced to her phone. Most of the messages were clean and casual, nothing obvious. But there was one unsent draft in her Messages app. It was typed out, never sent. Can't stop thinking about you. Last night was risky, but worth it. No name, no context, just sitting there like a landmine she forgot to cover up. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the iPad, set it back where it was, and went to bed. Still said nothing. I didn't want to fight. I wanted the truth. And next time, I planned to catch all of it. The next morning, I acted normally, made coffee, talked about my trip, kissed her goodbye like I always did. But everything had changed. I spent the next few days doing research quietly, carefully. I found a phone cloning app, one that mirrored messages and media in real time. I installed it on a burner phone and linked it to hers while she was in the shower. She had no idea. For the next 10 days, I watched everything. At first, nothing major. Casual chats with friends, random group texts and emails. It almost made me feel crazy, like I was overthinking the whole thing. Then I saw it. A message came through at 10:43 p.m. The contact name was just the letter E. Still thinking about that kiss in your driveway. She replied, "You're trouble." But I like trouble. Another message came through the next day, this time with a photo. She was in our bathroom mirror, in nothing but a towel, smiling. And that's when I scrolled up. The history was all there. The person she was messaging was Ethan Graves. We'd been friends since college. He was the best man at our wedding, helped me move into the condo, played poker at my house more times than I could count. He hadn't texted me in over a year. Now I knew why. Their messages stretched back months, late-night conversations, hotel meetups, shared memories I wasn't part of, photos, video clips. One message burned in my mind. "It feels real with you." I never had that with him. That him was me. I sat on the couch for hours, just staring at the screen. But I didn't feel rage. I felt focused. I was going to end this clean. And she'd never see it coming. I texted Ethan a few days later. "I'll be in town next week. Want to grab lunch?" He replied 5 minutes later. "Yeah, man. It's been too long." We met at a downtown steakhouse, neutral ground. He looked the same, clean cut, easy smile. But I could tell he was tense. Too many glances at his phone. Too much effort pretending to be relaxed. We talked surface-level stuff, work, old college stories, football. He said, "Still with Victoria?" I nodded. "Yeah, 4 years next month." He nodded back, sipped his drink. "That's solid, man. Good for you." The lie nearly made me laugh. I didn't mention what I knew. Didn't flinch. I just let him talk. That lunch wasn't for closure. It was a test. And he failed. That night, I went home and watched Victoria from across the kitchen island as she chopped vegetables like nothing in her world was burning. "Hey," I said. She looked up. "Are you happy?" I asked quietly. She paused. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." She forced a smile. "Yeah, I guess so." "Why?" I just shook my head. "Anything you want to tell me?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Is this about me not answering your call last night?" I held her gaze. "No, it's about Ethan." She went still. Her hands froze over the cutting board. The knife didn't move. Not even her breathing. "What about him?" she asked, voice flat. I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and slid it across the counter. Her eyes dropped to the screen. The messages were open. Photos, dates, all of it. She didn't speak, didn't cry or deny. After a full minute, she finally whispered, "Where did you get this?" "That's your question?" I said. Not, "I'm sorry," or "It was a mistake?" Her silence was louder than any answer she could have given. I walked past her, went to the bedroom, and started packing a small bag. She followed me in, voice cracking. "Gordon, wait, please. We can talk." I zipped the bag. "You won't get another word from me," I said. And I meant it. I left the next morning before sunrise. No goodbye, no note. Just walked out. The air was cold. The city was still half asleep. But I'd never felt more awake in my life. I moved into a short-term rental under my company's relocation agreement. Bare walls, no noise. It was perfect. Victoria called, left voicemails, texted. At first, it was confusion. Then came the apologies. Then the bargaining. I didn't answer. I blocked her number. Blocked Ethan's, too. If they wanted each other, they could have it. They just weren't going to have me. 2 days later, I got a message from Monica. FYI, Ethan just got dropped from the Bennett project. One of my old coworkers is at his firm. She said something came through HR. No details, but it sounded serious. I replied, not surprised. She didn't need to know how or why. Let's just say some of the evidence Victoria so kindly left behind didn't stay in my phone forever. I sent it, anonymously, to Ethan's firm. Not out of rage, just balance. Actions meet consequences. The screenshots spoke for themselves. Late-night messages, hotel plans, photos, timestamps that overlapped with business trips, a few texts even sent during work hours. If someone in HR connected the dots, it would have looked like a lapse in judgment, a reputation risk. And in firms like his, that's all it takes. They didn't need a scandal, just a reason to cut ties quietly. Victoria tried reaching out again a week later. New number. She wrote, "Please meet me, just once. Let's talk. I can explain." I agreed. Told her to meet me at a coffee shop in Midtown. Public, neutral, no room for drama. She looked different. Makeup done, but she had the look of someone who hadn't slept well in days. She started with, "I made a mistake." I said nothing. She kept going. "I was lonely. You were never home. It just happened." I waited for her to finish, then slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were the signed divorce papers. She opened it. "You're really doing this?" she asked. I stood up, calm. "I already did." And then I walked out. No anger, no scene. Didn't look back, didn't say goodbye. A few days after the papers were filed, I went to visit my mother. I sat down at her kitchen table, the same one I'd eaten breakfast at my whole childhood, and told her the short version. I didn't dwell on the pain, just the facts. Victoria, Ethan, the proof, the silence, the exit. She poured herself a cup of coffee and said quietly, "You were too good to her." I nodded, but didn't reply. She added, "Walking away without yelling. That's the part that'll haunt her." I thought about that. About how the lack of closure is its own punishment. No explosion, no satisfying release, just the door swinging closed and never opening again. Victoria still hadn't signed the divorce papers, but it didn't matter. My lawyer filed everything properly. With the evidence, we had leverage. We froze joint accounts, transferred the condo. There was no alimony, no settlement. She gave up fighting pretty quickly. Ethan disappeared from mutual circles. Word is, he'd moved out of the city, probably looking for a new start somewhere no one knew what he did. I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just free. I realized something important through all this. People don't expect silence. They expect shouting, accusations, begging, rage. But when you walk away without a word, it forces them to sit with what they've done. No spin, no escape. They replay that moment again and again, trying to guess what you were thinking. It gives you power they can't take back. I live alone now. 2-bedroom loft, west side of the city. Clean, minimal. No scent of someone else's perfume on the pillows. No locked screens. No half-empty wine glasses like forgotten confessions. I rebuilt my space the same way I rebuilt myself. Quietly, intentionally, and without asking for permission. The burner phone is gone. The evidence folder? Deleted. Not out of forgiveness, just irrelevance. I don't need the proof anymore. I lived it. Some nights, I still think about the moment she froze at the kitchen counter, knife in hand, staring at the screen that exposed everything. Not because I miss her. I don't. I think about it because that was the moment she realized who I really was. Not the man she could cheat on, not the fool in the dark, the one who chose silence over spectacle. She expected a scene, a door slammed, a glass shattered, something loud enough to make her feel like the victim. But I gave her nothing. Just a door closing. Quiet. Final. And that silence? That was the loudest thing I ever did. I didn't just leave. I stood for myself. And that's something she'll never unhear. Thank you for watching.